The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
I just want to give you a fair warning. It is Friday. It's been a long week, and I think I'm just going to while out a little bit on today's episode. See, I tried to say while. I try to use my AAVE, but say it properly, while out, instead of just saying I'm just going to while out a little bit on today's show with some stories that I probably normally would not cover because of the ridiculousness of them. And well, let's just see what happens. So let's listen to this first clip.
Did you believe his denial?
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible.
Hashtag golden showers. That was the voice of James Comey in an interview that will air, I believe, sometime this weekend with George Stephanopoulos, saying that he doesn't know for sure whether or not Russia has P tapes for the president of the United States. I mean, this is where we are. This is where we've been for some time. We are at this level of ridiculousness. And the funniest thing about this clip is, if you see the video, I'll post the link in the description. If you watch the video, it ends on, at least the Facebook version of the video, it ends on a screen, on a still shot of the Good Morning America staff anchors looking like, holy hot damn. Like, the look on their face is so amazing and funny because they're so disgusted and they're so distraught because, like, this is where the American discourse has devolved to. Of course, there's serious things that are happening around the world, serious things that are happening in the United States. But, you know, we talk about it all the time. And to be honest with you, at some point, we all have to just like breathe and just laugh at the absurdity of what America has become. And maybe this is what America always has been on the inside, the deep down. It's never really been any more serious than a golden shower tape from the president of the United States. I don't know. Maybe this is what we've always been. We've never been a serious nation deep down over the last 242 odd years that we've been in existence. And this is probably just a natural culmination of the things that have been dormant in the United States. I mean, people always, you know, not just in terms of Donald Trump. There's so many people who feel like the most important thing for us to do right now is to criticize the media. Right. Well, the media has always been stupid. The media has always been ridiculous. There's always been propagandized media, not just in terms of taking us to war. That's been there. I mean, the best example would be Hearst Media being the propagandist outlet that helped get us into the Spanish-American War. So, you know, that's been America's role. That's been the role of media in America for a long time. And it's also been the role of media to be absurd and to be tabloid, as tabloid as they possibly can be and still be taken seriously. All those things are true. So I'm not just talking about the president of the United States when I say these things. I'm talking about the absurdity of our media. And I'm also talking about the absurdity of us as individuals collectively, all the extremes, the far right, the far left, the center. There's so much absurdity in America that we should just look in the mirror and laugh at ourselves at some point. And I think that's really just the prescription for this morning's episode, is just to look in the mirror and laugh at ourselves at every aspect of it, because this is where we are. But the real question is this where we've always been? And now we just have it at the speed of social media.
And then he says something that distracted me, because he said, you know, if there's even a 1% chance my wife thinks that's true, that's terrible. And I remember thinking, how could your wife think there's a 1% chance you were with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow? I'm a flawed human being, but there's literally zero chance that my wife would think that was true. So what kind of marriage to what kind of man does your wife think there's only a 99% chance you didn't do that?
Let it all come out. Let it all burn down. James Comey is not a hero by any measure, but neither is Donald Trump. James Comey is trying to sell a book. And he's going to sell a whole lot of books. But this is exactly what I mentioned before. This is the balancing act of being as tabloid-esque as you possibly can be and still be taken as a serious adult. This is the walking the tightrope of being clickbait, a purely clickbait-based organization that can't do serious media like so many websites on the internet. You have to walk that fine line of getting all the eyes and the attention. And the real reason is because this is the kind of stuff the people want, at least the masses. I mean, maybe they want more. Maybe they don't know that they want intellectual conversations because the media never gives it to them. Man, I mean, there's that side of the argument, but I'm not here to argue either side of that, but to say this is where we are in America today. We're talking about golden showers on our main news. The former director of the FBI is talking about golden showers. The president of the United States is chiming in on golden showers. On Twitter, he said he spoke of James Comey, calling him an untruthful slimeball who was, at the time, as time has proven, a terrible director of the FBI. His handling of the crooked Hillary Clinton case and the events surrounding it will go down as one of the worst botched jobs in history. It was my great honor to fire James Comey. So the former director of the FBI is promoting a book on ABC News, one of the three major networks, and he's using the golden shower with prostitutes, the alleged golden showers, as a means of promoting it. And the president of the United States is replying via Twitter saying that it was his pleasure to fire the former director of the FBI. America the beautiful, from sea to shining sea. Here's a pretty serious clip from a very serious individual that I consider a friend. I was chatting with him this morning on Twitter, Professor Eddie Glaude of Princeton University. Take a listen to his critique of the president.
I'm just thinking about all those people, all the people around the country who are catching hell, trying to make ends meet, trying to pay their light bill, trying to keep food on the table, pay rent, and having to navigate and negotiate this stuff, this nonsense. I mean, just think about it. The President of the United States, there's a judge just said yes to a $25 million fraud to Trump University, emoluments. Michael Cohen, his lawyer, obstruction, collusion. And then you combine all of that with incompetence, with someone that you don't think has a moral center, whose narcissism is so unbounded that he will make the decision with regards to Syria. He will make the decision with regards to North Korea. And so I'm thinking about hardworking, everyday people, whether you're white, black, brown, purple, or yellow, having to live in perhaps a country that's in decline. And in the face of that declension is a B-list reality actor.
Eddie, we're going to leave it there just for a moment. We're going to come back, though.
I always said that my friend Eddie Glaude was too smart for MSNBC because they always require quick sound bites that are borderline overly simplistic talking points or expressly overly simplistic talking points. And Professor Glaude is very analytical and very well, you heard it, right? He takes his time and he properly dissects, in my opinion, the core issue of the matter. And if you want to hear a critique of Donald Trump that is the most accurate, well, you just heard it. But one of the things I was talking with him about this morning was, actually, he mentioned to me how much hell he's getting, not from Donald Trump supporters, but from Hillary Clinton supporters. And I'm probably something he told me. I don't know if that was in confidence, but it's probably a well-known fact. But it was important enough for me to mention to you, not to name drop or anything else like that, but because there is a very weird space that reasonable people occupy. And it is a very narrow space. It is a narrow space of people who, of course, I'm going to think that we're the normal ones, in so much as there is such a thing called normalcy. But those of us who are far too left for centrist and for Hillary Clinton supporters and people who are still upset with us because we didn't throw our unfeigned, our just 100% support behind Hillary Clinton. We dared, those people still firmly hate us. And then we're not far enough, or we're far too pragmatic for what Michael Brooks of the Majority Report and the Michael Brooks Show calls the dumb left. So we're stuck somewhere in between being too leftist and not leftist enough, right? Because leftism has become a religion in its own way, just like centrism has. And like I said, I don't really care today. I'm just going to say whatever the hell is on my mind and review whatever clips I want to review. But it's the truth, because everything has become oversimplified. Everything has been reduced down to their own talking points. And, I even literally have people in my mentions all day yesterday and today talking about me advocating for war against Syria, when based on my podcast, right? But if you actually listen to the damn podcast, you realize I said no war in Syria because there's no solution in Syria. But this shows you the zealotry that has formed on the far left, as well as it's very similar to the zealotry of the centrist. If you want to talk about a horseshoe theory, or if you want to talk whatever, the level of ridiculousness that exists on both extremes. It's hilarious. And so Professor Glaude, who gave this robust criticism of Donald Trump based inside of or nestled inside of a class critique, pointing out the people of every race and every culture who are struggling to make ends meet and simultaneously having to be exposed to the idiocy and the narcissism of the president of the United States, nestled in that wonderful critique, he's getting slammed from every direction. He's too left for the centrist, and he's not left enough for the unpragmatic leftists. And very similarly, from a black perspective, it's the same exact thing, right? We're too black for some white liberals and progressives, for a great deal of white liberals and progressives, but we're not black enough for black nationalists and black separatists who feel like segregation is the way to go. There's a weird place for reasonable people, reasonable thinking people, right? I'm using those words separately. We're reasonable and we're thinking people, right? We analyze things. We don't take things at face value. We don't take anyone's talking points, even if those talking points are coming from people we hang out with. We don't take anybody's talking points. We reject all of your talking points. We'll analyze this for ourselves. And we'll come to our own conclusion. And our own conclusion rarely ever falls neatly into platitudes that you can just put in 140 characters and go out as if you're some great paragon of leftism or blackism. I don't care today. But that's the weird place. And so I didn't really play that clip to talk about Donald Trump anymore. I played that clip to say, if you're a reasonable person and you are a critically thinking person, or a person who thinks critically, you're going to often find yourself in a lane so narrow that everyone is your enemy and no one is your friend, except the people who support you on Patreon and download your show every day. I love you guys. I'm just talking about the people who download this just so that they can try to find some way to attack. And as you can tell, I love the attacks because it gives me great fodder, especially on Fridays, like days like today where I just really don't care.
Now to the story of a pig that is inspiring others. One pot-bellied pig has certainly endured his share of problems. Chris P. Bacon was born without the use of his tentacles. Yeah, you have to read this story.
Oh, that is one of my favorite memes of all time. So anyway, Go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron today. Support the show as we continue to do great things. But let's move on with the analysis and with the rest of the show. Take a listen to this clip of Jon Stewart on The Daily Show back in 2003.
In these debates, it's left to the longest shot to say the craziest thing. I give you Ohio Representative Dennis Kucinich.
I would nominate any gay to the Supreme Court, or lesbian or bisexual or transgendered person to the Supreme Court.
Yes, yes. All rise for the Honorable Justice Chick with Dick.
Wow. I'm not 100% sure how I want to cover this, but I do try to keep it 100, so I think I'm going to cover it the way I always do. I want to wag my finger at Jon Stewart about what he said in 2003, but the real story is about Dennis Kucinich, who's running for the governor in the state of Ohio, and how ahead of the curve he was on issues. And most commentary right now, reading from my friend Adam Johnson on Twitter, he shared this a couple of days ago. I'm just getting around to it, but the commentary hinges on how far ahead of the curve the left generally is, because he was. Right? What was wild and crazy and laughable to Jon Stewart in 2003, who was supposed to be the paragon of liberalism, and maybe that's the right phrase for him, but Dennis Kucinich was in 2003 where the rest of America is now, or just catching up. So that's the real commentary. But on the flip side, I pause and wonder if I should even wave my finger at Jon Stewart, because there's a good chance that I laughed at that back in 2003. I look at it now and I think of how disgusting it is. But if I put myself back to who I was at 23 years old, it's a good possibility that I would have found that line funny. So I can't really wave my finger at him without waving the finger at myself. And, I wonder how many of you in the audience were in 2003 where you are now. Hopefully we've all progressed. But, it really does speak volumes about the clarity with which some people can see. And it does speak volumes about how far everyone in America has to go, or has had to come, because this was mainstream. This was mainstream in 2003. This was the height of the left in terms of what's acceptable on television. This was perfectly cool to have transphobic jokes. It was rather perfectly cool to have transphobic jokes and to casually dismiss the entire LGBTQ movement in 2003. I mean, if you think about it, the Clintons definitely didn't get on board until yesterday. Obama didn't get on board until I think it was around the same time Trayvon Martin died. I remember writing for a particular blog. So we're talking about in the last 5 years, 4 to 5 years. I mean, most people are just Johnny come lately on these issues. And I don't know if we should wag our fingers at them, because how many of us were perfectly intersectional, if you want to use that phrase, or perfectly represented all marginalized groups. And this is not to excuse people. This is not to give people a way out, but it is to look at ourselves and reflect and say, where do we need to grow from here? What are the issues that we're still holding out on? What are the things that still bother us if we talk about it, right? There are always going to be issues like that. For men, when you talk about women's rights, or not even women's rights, but when you talk about harassment, and you talk about the Me Too movement, and you talk about catcalling, and the reality that like 99% of women have had to experience that, and we talk about those issues, then it becomes uncomfortable for men. white people, when I talk about race issues, it becomes extremely uncomfortable for some white people. And so the question is, like, where do we have to go individually to actually be what we say we are on all issues, and not just issues that are acceptable in the mainstream now? So, yeah, I mean, it is to, point out that Dennis Kucinich, who was mocked for his standpoints, his viewpoints back in the early 2000s, had to get that S in there, 2000s, was actually ahead of the curve of everyone, period. And now he's a candidate for governor in the state of Ohio, and his running mate for lieutenant governor, Tara Samples, shout out to her campaign. Really want to see them do well. So go to their website, support their campaign, go to their Facebook page, follow them on Twitter, do what you do, and check out their campaigns, because we need more forward-thinking people who can be ahead of the curve enough to bring all of the rest of us who are behind the 8 ball, bring us along, just like he had to do on the issue that Jon Stewart mocked him on, as well as mocked the LGBTQ community on.
I wanted to put some stats on Wax before I got into my commentary. So, since he entered the league in 2011, better completion percentage than Andrew Luck, better touchdown to interception ratio than Kirk Cousins, better record than Eli Manning, better QBR than Alex Smith. So we clearly know this isn't about football. And since he chose to opt out of his contract, there have been multiple teams that signed a lot of different quarterbacks. The Texans and the Cardinals come to mind, 6 and 5. They chose to sign 2 quarterbacks that have never thrown a football in the NFL. So let's just put that out on the table.
That was Jalen Rose on Get Out, ESPN show this morning, talking about Colin Kaepernick and the reality of the fact that he's still unemployed. And despite the fact that he is far more qualified than many quarterbacks that have gotten picked up, the most recent news, before I go any further, I think I should introduce.
I'm just sitting here like, hello. That's a lot of sentences and no introduction.
My co-host for the afternoon show, like it or not, Rebecca Azor, is here at the studio with me. What's going on?
Hey guys, I know you guys already know who I am. And I was waiting for Ben to introduce me.
Before you said something.
You got to do better, Ben.
But you're here.
I'm here, and we're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick. So anyway, he was with, he was supposed to schedule a workout, a visit to Seattle Seahawks. And according to ESPN, the Seahawks have postponed his visit after Kaepernick said, won't say if he'll stop kneeling for the anthem. This is ridiculous. And I want to go one step further. Out of all the issues on one of my favorite shows, Blackish, out of all the issues that they've discussed, the only issue that they pulled an entire show for was over the kneeling for the anthem. I was really upset about that. Honestly, I really want that episode to come out. I want to find that episode. I want it to come out. I want to play it because I think that's something that everybody should see. Why is kneeling such an issue that you can't even play an episode around it? Why is kneeling such an issue that you can't even have this man work? He's out here and he's still doing his activism work, Still donating money. He's still donating money, sending planes of food and clothes places that are in need. And y'all don't want him on the team because he won't tell you guys if he's going to kneel or not. Right. Because kneeling, because protest, quiet protest, peaceful protest, is something that they are so terrified of. It's a problem. There's no acceptable form of protest. I think that's what we've come to, right? That's a lie. The kids that do March for Our Lives, beautiful form of protest. Beautiful, wonderful. And, I'm all for I'm all for it. No more gun violence. Y'all know that's one of my things I talk about on my own platform is gun control. But look at that. Look at how these kids protest peacefully. They can say whatever they want. They can go after Donald Trump. Okay, hello? And they're not called sons of bitches. Do you understand what I mean? This is this man's livelihood. This is what Colin Kaepernick does. This is what he does. He loves football.
So let me qualify that. There's no acceptable form of protest from black people. Let's make that clear.
That's what I need. Be clear, my boy.
Okay.
Be clear.
Okay. All right. I mean, Jesus H. Christ. I didn't get to finish my sentence.
Sorry,
but that's okay. But I mean, and actually, this is a good place to divvy this out, right? To break this down, because even for the Parkland protesters, there is no acceptable form of protest for conservatives in the eyes of conservatives. There's nothing that those Parkland protesters can do that's right. However, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, there are a lot of liberals and a lot of progressives, people who claim to be on our side, who have everything. They have approved everything Parkland has done. But when it comes down to the peaceful protest here in the NFL, they oppose us. They oppose us just as much as conservatives oppose Parkland. And it's just funny how that works out, right? They're totally okay with us as long as we aren't calling out something that makes them uncomfortable. And this kneeling for the anthem thing, because I guess everybody worships the NFL. Everybody worships the Super Bowl. I mean, you and I personally have some interaction with people who lost their mind over us covering stories about taking the knee. It's amazing how that makes them turn on people of color.
It pisses me off, and I don't, and you know what's even fun? You know what's even funnier? Okay, hello. You have these football players who have history and backgrounds of all these kind of things. Most recently,
domestic violence.
Yeah, most recently you have a player who beat the living hell out of his girlfriend or wife or whatever, and turns around and gets a spot.
Yeah.
On the football field where you got Colin, who's just out here, he's still conditioning. He's still practicing every day.
Yeah,
he still believes.
Still ready to go at a drop of a dime.
He's still ready to go at the drop of a dime. Yeah. This is one man. This is not like when he was playing. He was bad.
Right.
You know,
I mean,
he got stats.
It's not as though he didn't take his team, the 49ers, to the Super Bowl.
Hello.
Not,
he did was kneel and still handle his business on the field, and y'all still mad.
Here's what you were referencing as a tweet by Mike Rosenberg that I'm reading to. He summarizes it really well. And this is what he said on Twitter. He said, quote, "Just to recap today's NFL news, Colin Kaepernick won't say if he'll kneel next season, so the Seahawks cancel his tryout. Linebacker Reuben Foster charged with 3 felonies for allegedly punching his girlfriend in the head 8 to 10 times, and the 49ers keep him on the team." This is how ridiculous things are. You can literally be someone who commits domestic violence, who beats your wife, and you can get a spot on the team. But if you take a knee to protest police violence, well, we just can't touch you.
The world we live in today, and I believe that Donald Trump has opened many doors for moments like this because of his relationship with a lot of the team owners and things like that. So when they're asked, first of all, why is this even a question?
Right.
To ask him.
Right.
Hey, listen. We got you all scheduled away, for your tryout. However, we just want to know, like, a little question. We just want to know something like, what you think you done protesting? You gonna kneel? What you gonna we put you on? Because Donald Trump did tell us to get you in line.
Right.
Let's not forget it.
Right. Dallas Cowboys quarterback, not quarterback, but owner, he recanted on his apology. I remember last year he said you can't let the prisoners run the inmates run the prison, and then he took that back. So this is like. This just shows you the place that they really want black people, because this is really what it boils down to, right? The issue is a black issue primarily, right? And he's protesting it, and they are fighting back like hell. And they're telling us, you can play, we can make you a millionaire, but what we won't do is let you play or pay you millions of dollars, and you actually have some identity of your own and actually have a backbone of your own and willing to speak out on issues that we disagree with you on. And this transcends all politics. Right. This transcends conservatives. This hits progressives. This hits liberals. I mean, it's a lot of people, not all white people, but too many are on board with this kind of this. Most is an actual, that means a majority.
So I'll say majority.
Right. But I like to use words that are.
It is your radio show.
Yeah.
So
only because, like, if you say most, then we have to really go out there and poll people and say, does 50%, how do you feel? Now, is there 51%? But I'm just being pedantic.
It's more than a little bit. Anywho, no, seriously. Colin Kaepernick, I feel I just feel for him. I feel like it just hurts me to see him, and he's still trying. Here's my thing. You know, if they're going to try to strip him away, they use the word postpone. What the hell does that mean? So we're going to just hold it for another day, or we're just going to say we postpone, meaning that we really ain't going to be looking at you because you're liable to come and kneel on our field.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what it means.
So can they be real? Because people over here think it's just postpone. Like that just means that
keep it 100. Just be
no,
real.
just let them know we don't want you. You about to be. You're not sure if you're going to kneel, so we just don't want you. We don't want that on our field. We don't want that in our
They could never do that
in our football league.
I would actually have a modicum of respect if they did do that, but they're cowards. They're cowards around the board.
I just want him to play.
I don't even really care about him playing anymore. I just want him to have his money right.
The reason why I want him to play because that's his passion. Do you understand what I mean? It's a difference if this man is conditioning. Ain't nobody calling him. Ain't nobody bringing his phone up. But he's out there on the field acting like he about to go in tomorrow. Now, you can't tell me this is not somebody who lives and breathes this thing. Okay? So y'all better give him a phone. Somebody
give that man a football.
Give him something. I know Diddy and them had throughout the whole idea of making their own league.
Yeah.
You know.
I just, I mean, I feel what you're saying, and I actually agree with what you're saying, but I just want to make sure the man's money is right, because I don't feel like, I think we're at a stage where people shouldn't have to have their livelihoods destroyed because of protest. And that's just what it is. All right, Rebecca, hey, thanks for hanging out with me for these last few minutes.
Are you kicking me out?
Yeah, I'm kicking you out. I'm done with you.
That was really fast. Well,
yeah, that's it. Well, I did most of the show before you got here. So
guys, follow me on Twitter at Rebecca Zor, RebeccaZor. I don't have any good words to you today, but I just want to say I love you.
It's a beautiful day outside.
It's Friday the 13th, but we're gonna.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day out here in Atlanta. Too many people, too many black folks out in the street.
I do. It's not an all black audience. I have some white people.
Oh, sorry, guys. I knew it was an all black audience. Your audience could get down with the jokes.
I know they can, and they knew I was joking with you. All right, folks. Hey, thanks so much. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron today. Help us keep building the studio out so that you can see us as well as hear us. And I will see you Monday. Take care, everyone.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.